Hi, I'm Rusty Cooley, and welcome to Arpeggio Madness. In this program, I'm going to be showing you some new approaches to arpeggios that go beyond sweep picking. So let's get ready to shred. All right, arpeggios are a pretty advanced subject, so if you don't have strong fretboard visualization, you might want to check out my DVD, Fretboard Autopsy 1 and 2. These lessons are going to help you really unlock the fretboard so that you can start to see the neck as a whole. And when you can see the neck as a whole, not only can you see all of the notes in key, but you can also see all of your arpeggio possibilities, which is going to make connecting this stuff and putting it together and using it on your fretboard a whole lot easier. You'll be able to blend your arpeggios with your scales and make melodic concepts and statements, and everything will just flow much more fluidly. Again, you'll be able to visualize everything on the neck. You'll look down at the neck and every note in key will light up in your mind's eye like tiny little LEDs, and that is really your roadmap to freedom. When you can see the neck as a whole, you can see everything. You can see all your chordal possibilities, arpeggio possibilities, scale possibilities, and whatever you choose to do, you'll be able to do. All you have to do is begin to play, because all the notes are there and you can see them, and that's really the key. All right, to get the most out of this program, it's really important that you have a good knowledge of chord scales and how the chords work in the key, because this directly applies to your arpeggios. So please refer to the tab book for further explanation. All right, let's tune up. For all of these examples on the program, I tune my guitar a half step down, so that's going to be an E flat. Also, I'm playing a 7-string guitar that has a low B string. So keep your eye on that if you're not used to playing a 7-string guitar, because sometimes it'll look like I'm playing on the wrong string if you're used to watching 6-string guitar examples. So here is the 6-string open. Here's the 5th string. Fourth string. Here's your 3rd string. Second string. And your 1st. All right, even though I play a 7-string guitar, you don't need one for all of the lessons in this program. All right, now I'd like to talk a little bit about sweep picking, because a lot of these examples in this program are going to be using sweeping. So if you are a total noob at this technique, sweeping is where you use one pick direction for as many strings as possible. So you have to do if you're ascending, you're going to be doing a downward picking motion toward the floor, and it's important to understand that this is one continuous motion. It's not like if we were doing a 6-string arpeggio, an arpeggio that used all 6 strings, it wouldn't be 6 individual down picks. It would be one continuous flow of the down pick, and then when you would descend, it would be the same thing, coming up like this. So down, up. Also, it's important to understand the muting technique that's involved, because a lot of times you're going to encounter string noise, and to keep all the string noise at a minimum, you have to use multiple parts of the palm of your right hand to mute the unwanted string noise. So a lot of times I will use this part of my hand, or this part, or all 3 parts at once, just depending on how many strings I have to cover. So if I find myself up on the high E string, I might need to use, pretty much my whole hand, because I need to cover, in my case, from 7 all the way up to the 2nd string to keep everything from ringing. So again, use whatever part of your hand is available to keep all the string noise to a minimum, because you're going to encounter it at first, especially if you're new to this technique. So, it can be this, back here, or even over here. It's a little bit different than just standard palm muting when you're doing rhythm guitar, because when you do palm muting for rhythm guitar, it's all primarily back here. But with sweeping, you've got to use any part of your hand that's available to get the technique done. And I think that's primarily what you need to know about the right hand. Some of these examples with your left hand are going to be using a technique called a rolling bar. And a rolling bar is where you have to play 2 or more notes with one finger. But when you're barring and playing an arpeggio, by definition, an arpeggio is when you play the notes of a chord one at a time. So you cannot hear more than one note at a time. It's just like a scale. So to get a bar to work in this case, you have to do the roll. So if we were doing, say I had to play both of these notes here. Okay, I have to play those notes with one finger. So what I'm going to do on the ascend is I'm going to start on my fingertip, and after I play that note, I'm going to roll to the back of my finger and hit the next note. Now what's happening is my fingertip is still touching the first string that I was on, but it's only touching it enough to deaden it. So now it becomes a muted note. So now I'm using my left hand to help mute as well. Okay? So on an ascending rolling bar, you start on your fingertip, and as you ascend to the next note, you roll to the back of your finger, flattening it, and then just using the tip of your finger to deaden the string that you just left. On a descending rolling bar, it's just the opposite. You start on the back of your finger and roll to the fingertip. Okay, so it's just the opposite. You just reverse the technique. Also, for further muting technique, I do use my left-hand index finger to mute strings as well. It's kind of an advanced muting form. And say, for example, we're on the 6th string. What is going to happen is my index finger, the side of my index finger, it kind of always looks like I'm doing some sort of bar chord. And that's because I'm using the side of my index finger to mute the strings above what I'm playing. So if I accidentally hit it, brush it, touch it, whatever the case may be, you hear a dead note, and the dead note is not going to overpower the note you're actually fretting. So it's going to cover all your bases. So the technique, as you continue to ascend up the guitar strings, your index finger is going to continue to mute the strings above your finger, or the string you're on, and this is where your right hand comes into play. From a string noise standpoint, you're going to mute the strings below what your index finger is playing. So say we're now on the 3rd string, my index finger is going to mute strings 1 and 2, my right hand palm is going to mute strings 4, 5, and 6, and 7 in my case. I have a 7-string guitar. And that should keep everything quiet. So let's get busy with the next section. Okay, in this lesson we're going to be covering some A minor arpeggio shapes that cover 5 and 6 strings. We're going to have 3 initial shapes that cover all 6 strings and 2 5-string shapes that are derived from the initial 6-string shapes. And if that doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now, get out the tab book and look at the diagrams, because when you check it out, it'll make complete sense. So let's get busy and check it out. Here's your first 6-string shape. All right, I'm going to play that with a chord in a second so you can hear how the harmony works, but I'd like to talk to you about the picking real quick. So the picking for this first example is going to be the same picking that you're going to use for all of the examples that follow in this lesson. So the picking is going to be up, down, 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 up, and then you're going to pull off, and then you're going to continue up, 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 and down. So one more time slow with some volume. All right, here's what it sounds like with an A minor chord. All right, example number 2 is going to be the first derivative, and it covers strings 2 through 6 and goes like this. Now also, you might want to note the fingering that I'm using on this because it might seem a little bit different, but the reason I'm fingering it this way is because of the big stretch that you're going to have on the second string. You're going to be stretching from 5 to 10, which that's a pretty big stretch. So what I'm doing is setting myself up for that big stretch by using my first finger to my third finger, because if you notice, when my third finger is on the 8th fret, my pinky's already almost hanging over the 10th fret. So it's going to be index, ring, middle, middle, index, index, pinky. This sets me up. If you were to start with what a more conventional fingering might be, it might be like index, pinky, ring, ring, index, index, and then look, your pinky's hanging over the 8th fret. Then all of a sudden you've got to make this massive jump. So in my playing, I prefer to set myself up for that big stretch by starting with my index and ring. It'll make it a lot easier because that's a pretty big stretch. Okay, example number 3 is going to be in the same position. This is going to be the second variation from the first shape, and we're going to be starting on the 5th string, 3rd fret. So this is going to be a 1 through 5. We're covering strings 1 through 5 on this arpeggio. So we're going to start on the 5th string, 3rd fret, and it goes like this. And again, I'm kind of using a weird fingering on this, but I'm doing it because it's setting me up to get a cleaner, smoother bar. Or actually, it's not a bar. I'm doing it to get away from the bar. And what you might think would be a good fingering on this doesn't actually work out for me in the long run. You would look at the diagram and think that you would do something like this, which would be index, pinky, pinky, index, index, index. Okay? That will work, but I always try to do anything I can do to get away from barring. So this is why I use such a weird fingering on this, because I can get away from the barring, and barring is a little bit harder to get clean when you're playing arpeggio. So, you know, this option works better for me. So that's going to be index, pinky, ring, index, middle, index, pinky, index, middle, index, ring, pinky, index. That's kind of a crazy fingering, but it really works out good. Okay, on to the next shape. This one's going to be our second 6-string shape, and it's going to be on the 6th string, 8th fret, and we're going to stretch from 8 to 12. 12 again. We're going to bar on this one, even though I don't like barring. We're going to do it anyway. So index, pinky, pinky, middle, index, middle, index, pinky. All right, the first derivative based on this shape is going to be on strings 2 through 6, starting on the 6th string, same fret, 8. And this one's got kind of an awkward fingering on the 2nd string too, so let's take a look at this. So it's going to be index, pinky, pinky, middle, index, middle, and pinky. So that's pretty weird, and it's kind of uncomfortable at first. You're going to want to take this one slow. All right, the second derivative from this shape is going to be on strings 1 through 5. We're going to be starting on the 5th string, 7th fret. And this one starts with a pretty big stretch. You're going to be going from 7 to 12. So we got 7, 12, 10, 9, 10, 8, 12. And that's index, pinky, middle, index, middle, index, pinky. It's one of my favorite shapes, no barring, so it's awesome. All right, for the final 6-string shape, We're going to be on the 6th string 12th fret, and this one has a unique fingering also. If you don't follow the fingering on this one exact, by the time you get to the 1st string, you've actually ran out of fingers to make the arpeggio work. So let's take a look at that. Index, pinky, ring, middle, index, pinky. So 12, 17, 15, 14, 14, 13, 12, 17. So that's kind of weird, because if you look at the pattern, it looks like you should do something like this. But as you see, when you get to this string, you don't have another finger for that note. All right, first 5-string derivative is going to be 2 through 6. Goes like this. This one has a pretty easy fingering to grasp. It's index, pinky, ring, middle, index, pinky. All right, last shape is going to be the 5th string derivative, and it covers, strings 1 through 5. We're on the 5th string 12th fret. It's going to be index, pinky, ring, middle, index, and pinky. All right. Okay, in this lesson we're going to be covering C major arpeggio shapes, 5th and 6th string patterns as well, just like what we did with the A minors, but in the major form. And we're going to be using the exact same picking technique through all of these too. So let's get started. Here is the first 6th string shape, C major. It's going to be on the 6th string 8th fret, and you're going to play 8, 12, 10, 10, 9, 8, 8, and 12. That's index, pinky, ring, middle, index, pinky. Now here's what it sounds like with a C major chord behind it. Okay, the second arpeggio is going to be the first derivative. It's going to be on strings 2 through 6, starting on the 6th string 8th fret still. And it goes like this: index, pinky, ring, middle, index, pinky. It's 8, 12, 10, 10, 9, 8, 13. Okay, the second derivative is going to be on strings 1 through 5. Same position, but we're going to be on the 5th string 7th fret, and it's going to go 7, 10, 10, 9, 8, 8, 12. It's going to be index, ring, middle, index, pinky. Okay, on to the second 6th string shape. This one's going to be on the 6th string 12th fret, and we're going to be 12, 15, 15, 14, 12, 13, 12, 15. That's going to be index, pinky, ring, index, middle, index, pinky. All right, on to its first derivative. This is going to be strings 2 through 6. It's going to be 12, 15, 15, 14, 12, 13, and 17. And this is kind of like the A minor one from the last lesson, where we had to do that stretch on the second string with the middle and pinky. We've got it again in this arpeggio, but it's even bigger. We got a major third, which is 2 whole steps. This one's pretty tough. So check it out. And the second derivative is going to be 1 through 5 on the strings, and we're going to start on the 5th string, 10th fret. It's going to be 10, 15, 14, 12, 13, 12, and 15. Index, pinky, ring, index, middle, index, pinky. And I like this one a lot because there's no bars. All right. On to the third 6-string shape, and this one's going to be on the 6th string, 15th fret, and the fingering is going to be index, pinky, ring, middle, middle, middle. So we got 3 strings that we have to do a rolling bar on. It's kind of tricky. And then we're going to have index and pinky. So 15, 20, 19, 17, 17, 17, 15, and 20. Alrighty, the first derivative is going to be strings 2 through 6, starting off the same way. The big change is just on the B string. So it's going to be 15, 20, 19, 17, 17, 17, and 20. Now notice this time when I'm doing the rolling bar on strings 2, 3, and 4, I'm doing it with my index finger. Okay, so. And the last shape in this lesson is going to be strings 1 through 5. And this is another one of my favorites. Even though it has a bar, for whatever reason, I'm able to do this one a little bit easier than some of the other barring ones. So let's check it out. We're going to be on the 5th string, 15th fret. We're going to go 15, 19, 17, 17, 17, 15, 20. Index, pinky, middle, 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 index, pinky. All right, that does it for this lesson. All right, in this lesson we're going to be doing some B diminished arpeggios, and there's not as many examples for this lesson, just simply because I don't use them as much. Okay, so we've got index, pinky, middle, ring, middle, index, middle, and pinky. All right, here's what it sounds like with a B diminished chord behind it. All right, in the second example, we're going to be starting on the 6th string, 7th fret, same position, but this one's just going to have 5 strings. And it's going to be 6th string, 7th fret. It's going to be index, pinky, middle, ring, middle, index, and pinky. All right, here's the third shape. We're going to be starting on the 5th string. It's going to be the 8th fret. We're going to be stretching from 8 to 14. It's going to be index, pinky, ring, index, ring, index, pinky. Again, on this one we've got a big stretch too, so here it is, 8 to 14. Okay, on this next shape we're going to be on the 6th string, 13th fret, and we're going to be stretching from 13 to 19. And it's going to be index, pinky, ring, middle, index, pinky. It's 13, 19, 17, 15, 16, 15, 13, and 19. Okay, on the next shape, we're going to be starting on the 6th string also, 13th fret, stretching up to 19. So 13, 19, 17, 15, 16, 15, and 18. Okay, last shape is going to be on the 5th string. We're going to be on the 15th fret. It's going to be 15, 17, 15, 16, 15, 13, and 19. Index, pinky, middle, ring, middle, index, and pinky. Okay, in this lesson we're going to be talking about some sweeping techniques used with arpeggios, and it's going to be sequencing, and I'm going to be using some of the shapes that we just went through. And the first one is E minor, and it's going to start on the 1st string, 19th fret. We're going to be using this much of the shape, just 3 strings. And then the second time through, we're going to descend all the way down to the 5th string. So you got 3, 5. And let's talk about the picking on that. The picking is going to be down, up, 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 down, down, up, pull off, up, 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 down, hammer, down, 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 up. Okay? Some pretty cool stuff. It's some sequencing type ideas that I've been using for years, and really picked up this kind of stuff from one of my guitar heroes, which is Jason Becker. And if you haven't heard Jason, you should check him out. Okay, second example. This is C major. So we're going to be on the 1st string still, doing the same concept. We're going to be taking a 5-string shape and cutting it in half, doing the first 3 strings, and ascending back, and then coming back down to the 6th. So looks like this. Also, the picking on all of these examples is going to be the exact same thing for number 1, or as number 1. Okay, number 3 is B diminished. We're going to be on the 1st string, 13th fret. It's going to be 13, 10, 12, 10, 12, 14, and 8. So the sequence, 3 strings first. All right, here's what the first 3 just sound with a little rhythm guitar behind it. Ready? Let's check it out. Okay, this example is going to be a C augmented arpeggio, and I haven't taught any augmented arpeggios thus far in the lesson, so before we do the sequence, let's just check out the initial shape. So here we are, 1st string, 16th fret, so 16, 12, 13, 13, 14, 15, and 11. And watch that rolling bar on the B to G string, okay, 2nd to 3rd. So the sequence goes... Example number 5 is A minor. We're going to be on the first string, 17th fret. It's going to be 17 to 12, and then 13, 14, 14, 15, and 12. The sequence is... Okay, example number 6 is B flat major. It goes like this. This one's kind of tricky because of the 3-string rolling bar, so be careful on that. Okay, B diminished is the next one. It goes like this. We're starting on 19 and going to stretch down to 13, so we kind of got a big stretch there. So here we go. All right, and the last example is another C augmented, and the reason I'm showing you this is because the augmented triad actually inverts in major thirds, so the shape is actually the same thing. We're just going to start it up on the next note of the arpeggio. So the first one we started was on the 16th fret, so up a major third, which is 2 whole steps, is C. That would be the next note in the arpeggio, and you'll find that it's the exact same shape. This one just begins and ends on the root note. Okay, that was example 1 in this lesson, and these are going to be what I call melodic arpeggios. And the reason I call them melodic is basically because when I'm playing this kind of stuff, I don't really think too much about the notes that I'm adding in and how they relate to the chord. For example, if we did analyze example number 1, we basically have an E minor triad right here, and then I add in this note right here on the 20th fret, which is a C. And C is actually the flat 6 of E. And then I add in this note over here on the 14th fret, which is an F sharp, and that's a 2. So harmonically, I'm adding in a flat 6 and a second. But like I said, when I'm playing this stuff, I don't really think about those notes that I'm adding in because it's all diatonic, which just means that are notes contained in the key. So this would be E natural minor. And I know that when I add in either one of these notes, it's going to work in the key and sound good. So here's the lick slow. Okay, on example number 2, we're going to be in A minor. We're still in the key of E minor, so this just means we're going to the A minor chord, which is the 4 chord of E minor. And that modal relationship there would be a Dorian context. So in Dorian, we have a major 6, the A Dorian minor mode, 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 8. So on this first extension, I'm going to be adding the F sharp, which is the 6 of Dorian. So the note I'm adding below the shape is the 2. So we're adding in the major 6th and the 2nd. Also, the picking on this is going to be down, up, 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 down, down, up, pull off, and then just follow through each ascending and descending pattern with that same picking. Okay, in example number 3, we're going to be playing B minor arpeggio. So this would be relating to the B Phrygian minor mode as far as where I'm getting the extensions from. So the initial arpeggio is this shape. And then we're going to be adding in the flat 6, which is the G. And then the note that makes it especially Phrygian is the flat 2. And that's a pretty cool sound. So and if you guys are noticing that when I'm playing this stuff slow that I'm alternate picking, that is correct. I am alternate picking it when I play it slow. I only really start to sweep pick when I'm playing really fast, and I don't usually play any of these this slow when I'm actually using it in a musical example. So don't let that throw you off or confuse you. They are sweep picked up to speed. So okay, the next example is going to be G major. So this would be based off the actual key, G major. I mean, it's relative minor or relative major to E, so we're still in the same key. And we're going to be up on the 22nd fret. So it goes like this. So we're going to be adding in the major 6th, up on the 24th fret, and the 2nd on the 17th fret. And that's another thing. If you noticed, I ended that one with a 5-string sweep, which that's just kind of based on what we just went through in the last lesson, mixing 3 to 5-string sweeps. So what you can do now, once you get a few of these down, is you can add the melodic 3-string sweep shapes into a 3 to 5-string sweep shape, like I just did on this last example. So let's check it out so you know exactly what I'm talking about. So you're going to do the melodic shape first. And you don't really have to do it just the way I played it. You can throw it in any variation in any way that makes sense for you. So here's one way that I might do it. The next example is going to be D major. This is going to be on the 1st string, 17th fret, and it's going to go like this. Now, if you noticed, it's the exact same thing that I just did for the G major one, and that's because the D major and G major chord are closely related. They have the same 2nd and 6th, and they're both majors, so that's all 1, 3, 5, and adding in the 6th and 2nd. Up next is C major. It goes like this. Okay, example number 7 is going to be F sharp diminished, and it's up on the 1st string, 20th fret. It goes like this. Which that's got a pretty cool sound. We're adding in the minor 6th and the flat 2nd. All right, on this last example, we're going to be doing another variation on the C, and in the key of E minor. C is the sixth chord, and the sixth chord in its modal relationship to the key would be the Lydian mode. And to make this one really stand out and sound like Lydian, we're going to take advantage of the note that really makes Lydian different than the major scale, and that's the sharp 4. So C Lydian, there's your sharp 4, which is inharmonically a flat 5. So it gives you that nice diminished kind of sound within the bright major context. So I changed up the order a little bit on this one. It's going to go like this. All right, and before I completely wrap up this section, I would just kind of like to show you some of the things that you can do with this. You can actually take a couple of these and put them together in just whatever order melodically sounds good to you. So we could start and do something like this. All right, and if you noticed, I mixed it up with the 3s to 5s also. So, all right. Talking about some fifth string root major 7th arpeggios that you can also add in some variations to. And let's just get started, and as we make the variations, I'll explain them. So here's example number 1. It's going to be on the 5th string, 10th fret. It's going to be 10, 14, 12, 11, 12, 10, and 14. Okay, in this next example, what I'm going to be doing is adding a note a half step higher than the note we ended on. So the last note of the initial shape was the major 7th. And what I'm going to be doing is just adding in the octave. So we're going to have 3 notes on the high E string. And then when I descend, I'm going to add in a note a half step below the root note, which is the note we started on. And that is actually the major 7th. So what we're doing is adding in the octave on top and the major 7th on bottom. And the picking is going to be a little bit different because we're going to have a legato roll on the high string, the high E, and then I'm going to do a slide on the lowest string. So it goes like this. Now, I picked it differently the second time because, you know, you can actually do either one. It just depends on what you like. The first one was a little bit more legato. I picked less, so let's take a look at that one. Or you could do... So what I did on the second one was I picked all 3 notes and then pulled off 2. So either one will work, and I kind of just, you know, when I'm playing and improvising, I'm not really thinking too much about it. One time I might do it one way, the next time I might do it the other way. So whatever's working, go with it. Another thing that you can do with this arpeggio that's really cool is you can try to practice it all legato, because a lot of times when guitar players are first learning how to sweep pick, their right and left hands aren't syncing up, and the connection that most players don't make is that it's not really this hand, it's usually this hand, because you're now playing a new technique, which is primarily 1 note per string playing for your left hand. So your left hand's usually used to doing 2 or 3 notes on a string, which gives you, you know, plenty of time for each finger to continue doing something before it continues to the next string. So what I would do with arpeggios that didn't have any barring in them is I would practice them legato. So what you can do to make this technique work and keep a string noise to a minimum, which is important, is I'll take my index finger and I'll just kind of reach over, and all it's doing is muting the string so I don't get any unwanted string noise, because when you're doing it 100% legato, you can't mute on this side of it because you'll get a muted note. So you can try this. that's a pretty cool sound to have also, you know, play it 100% legato. Sometimes I'll only sweep when I'm ascending, and then I'll play it all legato on the descend. So again, it's just more options. You can mix it up based on your feel in that given moment. In this example, I was just pivoting off the F sharp and the G on the first string. Kind of like in the melodic arpeggios examples, I'm just kind of altering between the two tones and mixing it up with a 3 to 5 sweep. So a little bit slower, you're going to have. To come in on the end and in and on the major 7. It's very melodic to end in. All right, on this example, I'm going to be doing a 3-string sweep. And the unique thing about this is you're not going to ascend and descend the same pattern. You're going to have an ascending shape and a descending shape. And this is pretty cool because it gets you into pure sweeping, which means no hammer-ons or pull-offs. And I like that a lot when I'm able to find arpeggios that lay out that way on the fretboard. So here it is. It's G major 7th. You're going to ascend 12, 12, 10. That's going to be middle, middle, index. You're going to have to use that rolling bar on this. And then you're going to descend 14, 12, and 11. So. All right, and then on the end, I just moved it up to A and B flat. It was pretty cool sounding, and enjoy doing that. Okay, on example number 5, we're going to build off of number 4 by adding an additional note a half step higher than 14. So we're just going to be doing a variation. On the ascend is still going to be the same. The only thing that's going to change is on the descend. So you're still going to go 12, 12, 12, 10. The first time you're going to descend just like we did, 14, 12, 11. But the next time we're going to start the descend on 15. So. All right, here's how some of these examples sound over a G major 7 chord. All right, in this lesson we're going to be going through the same concepts, but now with an A minor 7 arpeggio. So this shape starts on the 5th string, 12th fret, and goes like this. 12, 15, 14, 12, 13, 12, and 15. The sweeping is going to be the exact same as the sweeping we did in the major 7th lesson. Okay, example number 2, we're going to use the extensions. I'm going to add the octave above and the minor 7th below. So we have. That's pretty cool, and the legato version. All right, in example number 3, we're going to do the melodic variation on top. All right, example number 4 is going to be the 3-string shape. And again, this is the same concept where we have one shape that ascends and one shape that descends. So no hammer-ons or pull-offs in this. It's pretty cool. We've got 14, 13, 12 on the ascend, and then 15, 13, 12 on the descend. So one down pick for 3 notes and one up pick for 3 notes. All right, the last example is going to be doing some melodic variations on the high E string. So we have, let's check it out. We got so what I'm adding in is the octave, and then the D, which is the 11th. All right, now here's what a couple of these sound like over an A minor 7th chord. All right, in this lesson we're going to be talking about some A dominant 7th arpeggios. So let's get started. 5th string, 12th fret. Here is your initial shape. So you got index, pinky, ring, index, ring, index, and pinky. All right, the second lick is going to be where you add the extensions above and below. And this one's got a pretty big stretch on it. You're going to be going 10, 12, 16. And then you're going to come over with your ring finger, index, ring, pinky. So. Example number 3 is going to be the sequence. And number 4 is going to be the 3-string, all sweeping, no legato example. One ascending shape. 14, 14, 12, and the descending shape is going to be 15, 14, 12. And this also has a rolling bar in it, which is going to be done with your ring finger. So. And example number 5, we're just going to do that with some extensions. This one's actually a little bit harder for me because it's got a lot of the ring finger in it, and it's just kind of, it's not as comfortable and doesn't lay out as well as some of the other ones, so it was a little bit harder for me. So let's check out what some of these sound like with an A7 background. All right, and the little improv thing on the end was based on the A Mixolydian scale, which is mode 5 in the key of D major. And the reason I use that is because Mixolydian is the dominant mode, and whenever I'm using dominant 7th arpeggios, it's usually in a Mixolydian context. So that works there. All right, in this lesson we're going to be talking about F sharp minor 7 flat 5 arpeggios. So let's get started. We'll be on the 5th string, 9th fret, and it will go 9, 12, 10, 9, 10, 8, 12. All right, example number 2, we're going to add in the extensions. So on the top, I'm just going to be adding in the F sharp, which is the root note. On the bottom, I'm going to be adding in the E, which is the minor 7th. All right, on example number 3, we're going to be mixing up 3 to 5 string sweeps with and altering the notes on top between the E and the F sharp. So it's kind of the melodic sequence approach. All right, example number 4 is going to be a 3-string shape, and this is going to be the 1 ascend, 1 descend, all sweep picking. So you've got 11, 10, 8 on the ascend, and 12, 10, 9 on the descend. And on example number 5, we're going to be adding in some extensions to that exact shape. So we'll be adding in the 14 and 7. All right, and now over an F sharp minor 7 flat 5 chord. Okay, that was an A minor arpeggio mixed with an A minor 7th arpeggio. The A minor shape goes like this. And then I add in the 3rd string root minor 7th arpeggio. It goes like this. And then I tag it back to the A minor arpeggio. So all together slowly. So the tricky part in this arpeggio is that when you're ascending the A minor shape, you're actually string skipping. So We play all the way up to 17, pull off to 12, and then we skip to the third string, and that's a little bit tricky. So you're just going to have to take that one slow. So when I'm ending on the first string, up, down, 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 up, pull off. So my last picked note on the high E string is an up pick, and then I skip over to the third string and start my next shape with a down pick. So it's kind of a little bit of a tricky technique in there. All right, here's what it sounds like over an A minor chord. All right, the next example combines A major 7 with A major. And this time we're going to play it over an A major 7 chord to an A5 power chord with a little bit of distortion. All right, now over an A5 power chord. All right, here's the next one. It goes like this. And here's what it sounds like over an A minor major 7 chord and then an A minor chord. All right, and the scale that I played there at the end was A harmonic minor, and the reason I played that is because that is the scale that matches up with the A minor major 7 arpeggio. When you're in the key of A harmonic minor, the 1 chord is A minor major 7. All right, here's the next one. And all right, here's the next one. It goes like this. And here it is over an A major 7 sharp 5 chord. All right, and the A major 7 sharp 5 chord, or just major 7 sharp 5 in general, can be found in the harmonic minor scale as the 3 chord, or it can be found in melodic minor as the 3 chord also. So there's a couple of application tips for you. All right, now I'm going to show you how to combine an A minor arpeggio with a D minor arpeggio with the chromatic passing tone. And the A minor shape that we're going to be using looks like this. All right, here's your D minor shape. All right, and here's how I combine them. All right, so we're combining them on the first string. And you're actually using all 4 fingers on your left hand, so that's kind of tricky. But it's really cool, and I kind of got this idea from listening to classical music, like guys like Chopin. There's a lot of chromatics in some of his pieces. All right, example number 2 is the same concept, but this time we're going to be using an A major arpeggio to a D major arpeggio. And here's the A major shape. And here's the D major shape. And then we're going to connect them on the high E string like this.